All right, for the next question, what should I say to my niece who was conceived via egg donation and just found out? She says she feels like half her story is missing. How can I support her without attacking her parents' choices?
It's challenging to know how to answer that question when you don't know the age of the child. If she's 8, you want to validate how she feels, but you probably don't want to say much more than that. You want to hopefully have conversations with her parents and say, you guys need to be really open, really forthright. You need to be the safest place for her to process all of this. You need to give her all the answers that she needs and do it in a way that is age appropriate. Um, but you probably don't want to necessarily go much further than that. You don't want to do anything that would inhibit a full relational contact and openness between her and her parents. If the niece is 18 years old and just found out, obviously you still want to facilitate open dialogue between her and her parents. But you can also do a little more of what I call careful validation, which is saying, you are right to feel this way. What you lost really does matter. I understand that you feel like you've just lost half of your identity. Oh, it totally makes sense that you wonder who your biological mother is and does she look like you and you have anything in common. Again, you can say all of that without disparaging her parents, and you should say it without disparaging her parents. Hopefully, they are going to see sort of the shock and trauma that their daughter is going through and own it and say, we shouldn't have done this. At minimum, we should not have kept it from you. We are so grateful for you. We love you so much. But we made a decision that was good for us, but not necessarily good for you.
Let's say, because we don't know the age, let's say we're dealing with someone who's like 18 or beyond 18, and maybe her parents are not fans of her going and finding that her biological mom or genetic mom, but she wants to. Is your advice to her to say, hey, that's a good thing to do? I agree with that, even if it puts you kind of against her parents?
That's really tough. I think at minimum, you say, what you're looking for and what you want is what every human child throughout history has ever wanted. And so I think a lot of that is just the validation, because there are going to be a lot of voices in her world. It sound, in this scenario you've painted, even her parents saying, it doesn't matter. Like, why are you looking for this stranger? We're your parents. We're the thing that, we're the ones that have loved you and changed your diapers and kissed your boo-boos. And like, who is this? I mean, this woman's nobody. She's just a donor. And so that's the message that a lot of these kids get when they discover the identity, when they discover that they themselves have been conceived through a third party, somebody else's sperm or somebody else's egg. And unfortunately, it serves as sort of a form of gaslighting. You should not feel the way that you feel. You should not want what every child has wanted. You instead should want what we want. And so I think that you, as a responsible adult who loves her, has the privilege of saying you're not crazy for wanting this. If it was me and I was in that situation, I would say, take a little time, have a little patience, and spend a little more time talking with your parents about this and see if you can get them on board. Because there might be some shocks to your system when you do discover the identity of your biological mother. For example, she might say, I want nothing to do with you, which could really be devastating. And it would be great to have the love and support of the people who raised you there, when you take that next step.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've talked about that adoptions now are overwhelmingly open adoptions. 95% are open, where that used to not be the case. And so it's interesting. Most people now think it's pretty normal for an adoptee to want to go find biological origins, and I want to know who my birth mom and my birth dad are. And then we kind of see that switch when we talk about same-sex parents with their kids or donor-conceived kids, or then those kids are kind of told it shouldn't matter. And so we kind of need to have a consistent view. Like, does biology matter to children or not? And adults, I've seen this. My friends who have adopted sometimes have to sacrifice a lot to try and help facilitate relationship with the birth families. Like, they have to help with good boundaries. They have to make sure birth family knows when different events are and if they want to come. And that can be really challenging and difficult. And I'm sure it feels hard because you don't want your kid to necessarily, it's not like them more, but go over there and be, okay, they're really close when they're your adopted kid, and there can be tensions there. But adoptive families, I think, are more primed to do that than a lot of these other kind of alternative parenting situations are.
What you want to avoid is you want to avoid the child processing and searching on their own. You don't want the child to be figuring this out in isolation. Isolation tends to lead to bad decisions. It makes you vulnerable to bad choices. And so, what you want in this scenario or any scenario is if your child is going through something challenging, you want them to look to you. You want them to rely on you. And sometimes in a situation, especially if it's like a divorce or a same sex parenting situation, or you did use a sperm or egg donor, a lot of that means giving them permission to say, "This hurt me," or "I feel like you wronged me." Because if they feel like they need to be in the position of being the emotional caretaker for you, it is going to push them into isolation. And you don't want kids there, right? Even if you made a mistake by divorcing their father or being a single mother by choice or using an egg donor, you need to own it. And you need, and hopefully, I pray that emotional intimacy will develop between you and your child as a result.